Um, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's open session meeting. Today, December the 9th. We are starting a little early. So this evening we're going to have a little bit of a different agenda. So I'm going to start the meeting off, opening the meeting and taking a roll call vote. We will then go to citizens' comments. However, we will not be taking citizens' comments related to item 1.1. We will have a special citizens' comment section for item 1.1. So if you are joining this meeting and have comments you would like to make regarding the site for the fuel island replacement, we will have a special citizen comment section during that segment of the meeting. So I'm going to start the meeting with a roll call vote. Uh, Robin Hunter present.
Dave Haviland present.
Cam Hudson present.
All right. So now I am going to take citizens' comments that are unrelated to the fuel replacement island site. So if there are any comments that people would like to make not related to item 1.1, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you as a resident and listen to your comment. I don't see any raised hands. So,
Nor do I.
okay. So with that, I'm going to move over to agenda item 1.1. So many of you this evening are in attendance at this meeting um, where the board is going to be voting on the site for the replacement of the fueled island. So it is important to understand that the purpose of this agenda item tonight is that the board will be voting on the site location only. We are not voting on the approval or construction merits of the fuel island itself. If the project moves forward beyond site selection, it will go through the town's full transparent vetting process, including public information sessions, a review by both the Capital Budget Committee and the Warrant Committee, in which they will do diligence on the merits of this project. Before we begin, I want to note and make sure that you all understand that this meeting is being conducted in a Zoom webinar format. I know many of you do not like this format, but we are utilizing this format to prevent Zoom bombing and ensure the safety and orderly discussion. Unfortunately, as you all know, the webinar format does not allow participants to see one another. And for this reason, at the outset of the meeting, which is now, we will read the names of the individuals who are in attendance of this meeting right now. If people join after we read these names, those people will not be announced. So to begin with, I will only read names that I see as participants. The first person that I see is a telephone number, so I cannot identify that person. Bobby Tosi is in attendance. Doug Wolf, Elizabeth Quayle, Evren Gundez, Glenn, Janet Bowser, John Benson, John Jeffries, Joseph Fincy, Justine Kent Uritam, Kyle McBurney, Nicole Safarian, and somebody representing the Warrant Committee. Again, if anybody joins later, their names will not be read. The site recommendation before us is based on an extensive evaluation performed by the town's accountants, Weston and Sampson. Their analysis reviewed multiple locations with a focus on the safety of our employees, our citizens, operational efficiencies, and the needs of our town departments. This evening, at the onset of this meeting, they will present a summary of their work and the basis for the recommendation that they made for the site that we will be voting on this evening. To ensure that everyone understands how we will proceed, I am going to outline the format that we are going to use for this evening's meeting. First, Weston and Sampson will provide an overview of their study and their recommendation for the site, and they will be introduced by our DPW Director, Kevin McCabe. We will then review the Planning Board's recommendations and conditions, which of which many have been addressed, and um, we will also talk about their vetting process for their recommendation. Following these two presentations, we will open the floor up for public comment. During public comment, each speaker will be elevated to join us as a panelist. When you join us as a panelist, we ask that you state your name and address, and you will have 2 minutes to share your comments. We ask that you refrain from repeating points that have already been made so that we can hear from as many residents as possible. This evening, the role of the Board of Selectmen is to listen. There will be no debate or response from the board on any individual comments or concerns tonight. All concerns raised will be reviewed and addressed as part of the subsequent stages of this project review. We really appreciate all of your cooperation and ask that all comments and interactions remain respectful. Please keep in mind that the site selection is the first step in a much longer process that will be structured and have much community engagement. We really appreciate your cooperation this evening. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Kevin McCabe, who will introduce our consultants and maybe provide us with a little bit of background on the study that was conducted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As noted, I'm Kevin McCabe, the Public Works Director here at the DPW. And this project before us is for replacing a 1994 convolt concrete double-walled above-ground fuel storage facility, and to get into a presentation on site selection, safety features, and more of the need, I'll pass it over to Jesse O'Donnell and Tyler Colfleens with Weston and Sampson for a presentation.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate the introduction. My name is Jesse O'Donnell. I am an engineer with Weston and Sampson representing the Department of Public Works tonight. And I'm going to share my screen here. I think I just sent a request to get some PowerPoint slides on the page for everyone to follow along. Did the board get that request?
We don't have the power to grant you power.
Oh, it looks
Jesse,
like it was
you-
already granted.
Yeah, it should be good to go.
Okay, let me just get the right screen.
We're just figureheads.
All right, let me just get the screen shared. Can
there you
everyone
go.
see a screen with a white slide?
Yes.
We do.
Fantastic. All right, so I will get us started tonight. So as Kevin mentioned, the project at hand here is a proposed fuel system replacement on the town garage property at 2 Dedham Street. And we are requesting the vote of approval from the Selectmen tonight for the proposed work because it's in zoning district O, the open space district in town. All right, so let me go to the next slide. There's a slight delay in the slide progression here, so just bear with me. So first, to start off, I'd like to orient everyone with an aerial photograph of the site. So on the bottom, you'll see that the town hall in green. The town garage property is across the street. The town garage building itself is in orange on this aerial. The existing above ground fuel storage tanks are in yellow. And the area we are proposing the brand new replacement tanks is in the rear of the site, approximately shown in red. So to provide some context of the timeline up to tonight, this has been a long 2+ year project in the making. We've had several milestones along the way, interacting with stakeholders and other boards and other community members in town. It started off in June 2023 when Weston and Sampson issued our site feasibility report to the DPW, which we evaluated potential upgrades to the salt shed, stormwater systems on the site, as well as the fuel system replacement. The following August in 2024, we filed our first application with the planning board for this proposed fuel system project. And the following September was our first planning board meeting for the project. During that planning board meeting, we received some good feedback from the planning board. Notably, we received feedback to shift the fuel system a bit further away from the cell tower enclosure in the rear portion of the site, which we did implement to the planning board satisfaction. The planning board during that meeting also requested that we gather some intelligence, some feedback from the Conservation Commission. The project did not require that because it wasn't in the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, but we did seek to get on the Conservation Commission's agenda to get gather their input from the project, which we did. We presented this in front of the Conservation Commission in October 23rd of last year. And received good feedback from the commission as well. That feedback mostly pertained to erosion controls, spill prevention measures, and we incorporated that feedback into the design, and we'll be mentioning some of that during our presentation tonight. We then went on to our second planning board meeting, where during that meeting we primarily educated the board and the public in attendance on a lot of the spill prevention and spill response mechanisms and features that were proposed for the project. And in response, the planning board had asked if we could include fire suppression into the design. While not required, this is an added safety benefit that we willingly added to the project and has been incorporated into the design. And then during our third and final planning board hearing for the project, in late January of this past year, the planning board did vote to approve a recommendation to pass this off to the Board of Selectmen tonight with conditions. So there was a number of conditions, primarily pertaining to fueling safety and spill response procedures, as well as some construction coordination requirements. So that brings us to tonight and presenting in front of the Board of Selectmen. And I'd like to discuss a bit more information on the existing fuel system. You'll see an image, a photograph of the existing fuel system on the top here with the Dunkin' Donuts building in the background. We have a plan view just below it showing an arrow kind of as to the vantage point at which we're looking at this photograph. The existing location of the fuel tanks on the site does present one logistical challenge. The tank location requires vehicles to reverse either in or out when they perform a fueling. And this is a cramped and busy area of the site where several DPW vehicles are typically parked just off to the left of the photograph as we see it now. So this is an unideal condition that we were certainly looking to improve upon with our design. The existing Convolt tanks, as Kevin mentioned, were installed back in '94. So the warranty and the 30-year life expectancy for those tanks has expired. So just for a public safety measure, we are looking to replace the tanks with new tanks as soon as reasonably possible. So the proposed removal of the tank would also include removal of the associated piping, the chain link fence surrounding them, and the bollards that are shown in yellow in the photograph. So here's another aerial image of the site, and we like to provide this image for some spatial context. The existing fuel tanks are in yellow, and the proposed tank behind the building is shown in red. And you can see the blue dimension lines, and if everyone can make it out, we're showing that the dimension of the fuel tanks to the closest dwelling is pretty equidistant. We were looking at about 178 feet for both the proposed and the existing fuel tanks to the closest dwelling. The proposed fuel tank in red is about 105 feet away from the DPW garage building, and the existing tanks are a bit closer at 85 feet. So as Madam Chair mentioned, there was a siting assessment that Weston and Sampson worked on in coordination with Kevin and the DPW in town. And we assessed a number of different options on the site to place the fuel system. We always look to potentially replace the fuel system right in place. Usually, this is not a great option, and that proved to be the case for this site. When doing so, I'd like to mention again those reverse maneuvers that are unideal for vehicles. But also, replacing the fuel system right in place would cause an interruption to on-site fueling operations. For several months during construction, we would need to find a temporary fueling solution for town vehicles, and that can be very expensive and cost prohibitive. The existing tanks are also partially located within an AT&T easement and the Dover structure setback. So by proposing the tanks to be located elsewhere on site, we would be able to restore some conformity to those items. We also assessed the area just south of where the existing fuel tanks are currently located, a bit closer to the Dunkin' Donuts building. Um, Doing so would require more funding to accommodate additional geotechnical and environmental drilling efforts to assess soil suitability in that area. Um, where we ultimately proposed the tanks in the rear portion of the site, we had already gotten feedback and information on the soil conditions back there just because of its proximity to the salt shed project and the stormwater improvements that we've already done. So doing those additional explorations with some additional design and permitting, we estimate would very roughly cost another $50,000 to $100,000 and would cause another 6 or 12 months of delay to the project schedule. With that in mind, we also looked at this area and noted that it is a material and equipment storage area for the DPW. So placing a fuel system here, it could reduce some operational efficiency. The area is also not paved, so adding, new impervious area to accommodate a fuel system here would exacerbate potential flooding issues that have been present on the site in the past. The project does the design of the project does aim to limit new impervious area just in accordance with stormwater best practices. So with all that in mind, we looked at the option that we ended up selecting, which is relocating the tanks to the rear portion of the site. As I mentioned, we did meet with Conservation Commission and the Planning Board to receive their feedback and either have or will implement their recommendations to their satisfaction. We find this is the best option for vehicular circulation and access. It's in an open area in the rear portion of the site that's less congested than the current location of the tanks. The rear location does keep this critical infrastructure away from a public-facing location and away from, the parking lot, which can get pretty well utilized during the day in the front. It complies with zoning and dimensional requirements. The grades in the rear portion of the site are a bit more forgiving, which makes the design a bit easier to manage. And again, those geotechnical and environmental investigations have already been completed in the rear portion of the site and show that the soil back there can accommodate a facility based on the information those investigations yielded. So with all that in mind, I'd like to segue to the proposed system in the rear portion of the site. You can see in orange on this plan the location of the proposed 9,900 plus or minus gallon double-walled steel split tank. So this is an above-ground tank that contains both gasoline and diesel fuel. It does have a single-sided fueling configuration. In other words, the vehicles will be pulling up on the left side of the orange triangle, as you see it on this slide for fueling. In red, we're showing the proposed canopy associated with the fuel island. Um, the canopy will have recessed motion sensing lighting. And just beneath the canopy is the concrete fueling pad, which will also have bollards surrounding the pad just to protect the tanks from vehicles. In blue is a diesel exhaust fluid tote. This is a feature that we view as a bit alternate to the project. And again, I'd like to reiterate that the placement of the fuel system here allows no interruption to fueling during construction because the existing tanks would be removed after the proposed installation. Um, so with that all in mind, I'd like to transition to my colleague Tyler, who will have a few moments to talk about safety features for the proposed infrastructure.
Thanks, Jesse. So, yeah, as Jesse mentioned, I wanted to take a couple minutes just to talk about safety, which Weston and Sampson does take very seriously, and we know it's been a big concern on this project. And there's actually a lot of engineering behind this system that isn't obvious when you just look at a tank on a site plan. So, we just want to walk through some of the safety features just so everyone is clear as to what we're proposing. So the main piece of the system is a UL 2085 fire guard tank. It's one of the safest tanks you can buy. It's essentially a tank inside of another tank with concrete between the two. And that concrete's super important. It provides it helps protect the inner tank from heat. It helps absorb impact and makes the tank way more, way stronger. So, in order for these tanks to achieve a UL 2085 rating, they must go through a pretty intense testing regimen. The first of which is a 2000-degree furnace test. Essentially, this is to simulate someone pouring gasoline all over the island and then lighting it on fire and let it burn all around the tank. So, even under those conditions, the tank is not allowed to burst, explode, or rupture, and the inner tank must stay protected through the whole test. And I just wanted to highlight that even though the tank can handle a pool fire, as mentioned by Jesse, we are adding fire suppression to help prevent such a scenario to happen in the first place. And then following that is a stream hose test. This simulates making sure the tank doesn't rupture when firefighters are cooling it down after a big fire. So following the fire test, it's hit with a bunch of cold water, and then the tank has to show that it won't crack or rupture, ensuring the fuel inside is safe. In addition to that, it has to also pass an impact test. It's tested with a 12,000-pound object traveling at 10 miles per hour. It's essentially testing it with a vehicle strike, saying that even if a vehicle were to run into this tank, the inner tank has to remain intact and protect the fuel. And again, kind of like a belts and suspenders approach, we are adding bollards so that vehicles don't even have an opportunity to run into it, even though the tank is strong enough to withstand it. And then lastly, it also has to pass the ballistic test. They shoot this tank 5 times with a 308 rifle at about 100 feet away, and the bullets cannot penetrate the inner tank. So this is a photo showing the outer tank, and then the next picture shows what the inner tank looks like. It's just a small little dent. So again, these tanks are not your standard tanks that you would think of in our like one of the big safety features of this fuel island. Also, in addition to the tank, we also have a bunch of vapor features to help manage vapors on the site. There are actually also regulatory requirements as well. So we have a stage 1 vapor recovery system that ensures that when tanks are filled, the displaced vapors inside the tank aren't just, pushed out to the environment. They're actually pushed back into the delivery tank as shown in this image. We also provide a pressure vacuum vent cap that helps contain the vapors inside the tank, and it only opens just to relieve pressure if there's ever a pressure buildup inside the tank. And then also modern vehicles are also equipped with vapor recovery in them to help capture the vapors as you're filling up a vehicle, which all helps keep the vapors, from this fuel island very low. It's similar to what the existing fuel island currently has. So in addition to the vapor safety measures, we also have a bunch of other safety features, which I've listed out on this slide. I'm not going to read all of them, but I highlighted some of the most important ones, such as these tanks being continuously electronically monitored for leaks. So we'll have probes inside in the interstitial between the inner and outer that will flag and email notify anyone of any leaks that occur. There's also the tank monitoring and the fuel management system will talk to each other so that if the levels don't match what has been used, it'll flag that there's some leak not being accounted for. The fuel hoses also have shear valves on them, so if someone drives away with the fuel hose in the vehicle, it will shear and it'll cut off both ends so that no fuel is lost. We have anti-siphon valves, so if there's a leak in the pipe, it doesn't drain the whole tank onto the ground. And we've also talked with the DPW about adding a standard operating procedure of using a catch basin mat that will be placed over the nearest catch basin during all fueling events so that if there is a incident, the fuel pad will prevent fueling from going into the drainage system. So it's a lot of belts and suspenders that go into this design to help ensure the safety for the neighborhood, the environment, and as well as the DPW itself.
So, Tyler, can I ask you a question about some of these systems? Do
Shoot.
they all require electricity? And what happens if the power goes out?
Yeah, no, they don't. A lot of these are passive.
Okay.
So I'm just reading through this list. So the electronic leak monitoring system does require power. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else. The
But
fire suppression system, if the power does go out, it's actually activated through a nitrogen bottle. So
hmm,
there'd be something that's triggered and it opens a valve, and then nitrogen is run through a little copper hose that actuates a valve and turns on the system. So that actually does have a override for it if the power goes out. But all the valves and the shear valves and all that stuff is just mechanical.
okay. So even if there were a power outage that and you wouldn't get notification of a leak, the system itself would ensure that the leak was contained.
Yep, and that's also a benefit of having above ground storage tanks. And I think it's one of the reasons why below ground tanks are not allowed in aquifer protection areas for that scenario where, you can visually detect them when they're above ground.
Robin, may I follow up on that?
You certainly may.
Tyler, is it possible to get a battery for the electronic leak monitoring system?
Uh, Possibly. I guess question for usually these fuel islands are backed up with a generator. Kevin, is the DPW have a generator?
Yes,
Oh,
So would this then be connected to that, Kevin?
yes.
Okay,
Okay, so
perfect.
then all of our concerns, okay.
Would that generator automatically come on in the event of a power outage, Kevin?
Yes.
I had another question. You mentioned the bollards, Tyler.
hmm.
What sort of strength do they have? You mentioned impact testing of 12,000 pounds on the tank itself, but what protection do the bollards actually offer?
So these are, they're heavy duty bollards. They're 6-inch diameter filled with concrete. I don't have any numbers off the top of my head, but they're spaced no more than 4 feet apart. So if a vehicle were to impact them, you'd be hitting more than one of them. And they also extend, I think, 4 feet into the ground. So they're heavy duty bollards. You're not going to be driving through them and getting, even if you do get through them, the tank can withstand it.
Mhm,
Yeah, they get wet set as part of the pour for the foundation, the concrete foundation for the apron.
mhm.
Yep. Yeah, they have their own, I think they're 18-inch by 4 foot deep concrete foundations that the bollards are poured into. So yeah, they're designed for heavy duty DPW vehicles. They're not like the smaller ones you'll see on retail stores are 4-inch are typical for that kind of scenario for like passenger vehicles, but these are beefier 6-inch ones.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the last of my slides. So
Okay.
I think it was a perfect time to transition to questions.
Um, So, certainly this project started many years ago. I think there are a couple of things that have happened since the start of this project. And Kevin, I don't know if now is the right time for you to give a little bit of an update to everyone. So first of all, I think you mentioned to me a few days ago that we're already starting to have some maintenance issues with the current tanks. And also you had shown me I think in the conditions on the planning board recommendation, there was a traffic study, which was really not the kind of traffic study that we think of, but really to ensure that large vehicles could be fueled without any that there was enough room for that. So it might be a good time if you do have those slides to show that as well.
Yeah, would you be able to pull up those maneuver plans, Jesse?
Yeah, it's a good time to discuss those. So for the
Right.
planning board condition, I think I see a notification that screen sharing has stopped. So let me just reshare if people cannot see my screen. Um,
Yeah, and then while Jesse pulls that up, yeah. So during our last test, and basically when our mechanic is kind of doing our winter maintenance, flagged to us weird items, if you will, that are in our fuel filters right now. So we're in the process of mitigating our diesel tanks, which I guess is commonly referred to as diesel bugs. So when there's enough basically water condensation and sludge in the tanks, it can form bioorganisms. So we just discovered that. So we're in the process of trying to basically mitigate and siphon that out of the diesel tanks. Fortunately, vehicles right have the fuel filters, but obviously we don't want to have that be our be all end all as far as those type of organisms, if you will, enter into the engines of the vehicles.
Thanks for that recap, Kevin. I can jump over to the traffic turning simulations that we were showing for this plan, if that was a good time.
Right,
What?
and we will go over the conditions of the planning board's recommendations next, and this was condition number 16. But I think given that we were talking about all the different design features that you had in place, this would be a good time to discuss this.
Yeah, agreed. So to Robin's point, this is what we prepared for the vehicle circulation for the proposed project. So just to orient everybody, we have the DPW garage as I'm highlighting in blue in this blue rectangle right now. So you can see the proposed fuel system in a kind of a more bold color behind the garage. And what we're showing here is a WB50 semi-trailer, which is essentially simulating like a fuel delivery truck or a large fire truck. You know, the most conservative in terms of design, like the largest vehicles that would be running through the site.
It's
And
an 18-wheeler, correct?
Yeah, this is super conservative.
yeah, it's very conservative. Yeah, it's 18
A
wheeler,
very large truck.
and we're showing it navigating throughout the site in this counterclockwise formation here. It could very well navigate the other way through the site too. And it just shows that the turning radius that it would take and kind of the amount of space it would require to make these maneuvers. So you can see it does take up a lot of space, but it's very adequately accommodated by the development, even with the proposed fuel system shown here. We also took a look at the typical DPW vehicle represented by like a box truck, an SU-30 it's called, which is also a pretty conservative representation of DPW vehicles. And we showed that entering, fueling up at the fueling pad as well. And again, those could navigate clockwise or counterclockwise throughout the site as well. So that was the extent of the traffic analysis that we did, the study pursuant to that planning board condition.
Jesse,
Great.
may I
And
quickly ask a question of Kevin? What is the size of the truck that delivers the fuel today?
It's currently a 10-wheeler, and so it's not an 18-wheeler like you would see going to a much larger facility. And I think that's kind of due to the fuel ports are actually in the back of the existing tank. So if you've been down to our facility lately, there's a storage container there and a small alleyway in between it. So basically, that 10-wheeler backs in there and attaches to the fuel ports and fills up.
Okay, so while you're being ultra conservative, the second example will happen because that's the fuel delivery truck.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Kevin, I have a question on the protocol for traffic entering and exiting the site. Um, I heard Jesse saying that the entrance and exit could be from either way. Is that not going to cause problems with traffic control if some people start sort of driving in and somebody else is trying to drive out? And how do you plan to manage that?
Yeah, so current operations now on basically the south side of the DPW there is super adequate for two vehicles. That's most of the passage of our vehicles. And again, it frequent but infrequent, if that makes any sense, right? With kind of the ebb and flows of if guys are already out or we need to come back and get materials or equipment. And we order the fuel, right? So we know that they'll be there the next day when we call. So obviously to date, no issues.
No, I'm thinking less of actually the fueling vehicles, but of the day-to-day fueling of vehicles. It seems to me there's an opportunity for a little bit of chaos there if there isn't a clear priority entrance and exit path.
No, I don't agree with that. Where it's set up now is a choke point, and we've managed now. The only kind of hectic time, if you will, is when the larger apparatus that fire operates comes in, because the fuel ports are in the back of the vehicle. So especially the ladder truck, they have to back in at an angle. So that's really the only time where we kind of have a proceed with caution, if you will.
So I think what Cam is trying to say really nicely is that, perhaps we should consider as part of this whether or not it makes sense to have the traffic flow in one direction. So you come in one side and go out the other side. So maybe that's something you can take a look at with the police chief or whomever, or the
Yeah,
fire chief, and see if that will make sense.
I think because inherently a lot of fleets have fuel ports on different sides of the vehicle, that
right.
some vehicles
Okay.
may have to come the other way.
Yeah, that's why I really wasn't
Okay.
making that proposal, Robin, because
Okay.
I
All right.
felt that there might be cases where trucks actually had to come in the other
Well, you
way
should have
to
corrected
access it.
me.
No, I was about to mention that, but Tyler jumped in, so he corrected you instead.
I learned something new this evening.
And I think just to clarify Kevin's point, this isn't like a high, it's not used so frequent and have such long
Okay.
queues that you're gonna have like a congestion back there. I think it's a one spot, one vehicle can fuel up at a time and people can just share it when they need it, I think is what
Okay.
Kevin was saying.
Yeah, typically the only time there's a line there is if we're in storm operations and we're trying to top off vehicles. But the operations super is pretty good on that, making sure vehicles are filled up before an anticipated storm event, so we don't have mass chaos, if you will, at the pumps.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we're sure you know how to, and your team knows how to navigate all of this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And are there any more questions to Weston and Sampson or Kevin?
I had a general question. I'm not sure whether this is the right time to raise it, but um, you did mention in your presentation, Jesse, the alternatives considered. Um, I know there has been some suggestion in the town that we might be able to get some commercial suppliers to step in rather than have us build this enormous infrastructure. I'm just wondering how you address those sorts of broader issues.
I,
If I
I,
understand, are you referring to the temporary tanks that we would need if we were to?
No, I'm sort of thinking about a whole plan of whether this is the right location. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be discussing this evening, and I know there's a deal of citizens' concern about the location. I think you have certainly addressed the safety issues in a remarkable fashion. So I'm not detracting from that. I just wonder if there are real alternatives and whether they have been explored.
so I can speak more to that. I think you may be referring, there's a fuel card program that the state of Massachusetts has through the WEX card system. And I've actually just went through a recent study for a similar municipality where we looked at uh, installing a new fuel system versus just transitioning to retail. And
Mhm.
over the life of a fuel island, it's actually significantly cheaper to own your own fuel. You get it at a much more discounted price. Whereas if you're buying it at retail, um, you're paying for much more per gallon. So over the lifetime of a fuel island, you'll be saving more than you spend. So it, I think it's advantageous for a municipality that uses so much fuel to be able to buy in bulk.
Kevin, could you also speak to your efforts to reach out to neighboring communities?
Yeah, so Cam's wearing his warrant hat there because these are questions that they raised last year and this year too. I've met with the liaison and so the WEX program, why it wouldn't work for us is basically there's no 24/7 gas in the nearby vicinity. So not to mention once it's died, you can't get the tax reduction off it. So we would pay retail like everybody else when we pay a significant charge under that because ours is undyed fuel. To the later of that, I've since confirmed with other DPWs that they would not sell us fuel and only help us out if we were, tanks went down, we ran out of fuel, we were in an emergency, or potential, outage for a month or such. So Sherburne, Westwood, Needham, and Medfield have denied that request. To be a permanent supplier for us.
Hmm.
We also looked at the feasibility of potentially the mobile station in Dover. The tanks would be underground. We're not sure it's even large enough to have the fire trucks come in there and refuel. But again, these are all things that I think have been vetted and will continue to be vetted during the open hearing process. So this evening, what we're asked to vote on is the recommendation of the site for the fuel island at the town garage.
Right. No, Robin, I've also sort of thought of the idea of the mobile station as well. Unfortunately, as Mike pointed out to me today, they don't sell
Diesel
diesel
either,
fuel.
right? It's
So
also
you need to have a tank construction to do that as well. So that essentially rules that out, I think. The other question that I had in terms of the economics of the fuel island is a broader question. We have a state mandate to reduce our carbon footprint by 50% by 2030 and to get to net zero by 2050. So that means this is probably the last fuel station we'll ever install in the town. And the question, I think, is, um, the economics of it seem rather painful because I'm presuming that the demand for fuel services over that next 25-year period is just going to go into retreat as electrification proceeds. And so that's a sort of a general concern that I have, but I really don't have any. I'm not sure that impacts the decision or not, but I just wanted to make that clear that there is some concern that this is an investment that probably won't last the full duration of its warranty, for example.
right. And I think, as we all know, electrification is a goal. However, today there is not a dump truck that's electric that you can buy. I mean, the
No,
only
I'm
trucks
fully
that
fully
are
with you.
available are garbage trucks. And we have come to the end of the life of our current fuel
Yeah. No,
station.
I get that,
Right.
Robin.
And as much as this is a tough investment to make, where it's a lot of money. It's a 1.7, it's my guess. It was 1.5. It's probably a little more expensive now. And we also added fire suppression. So we're probably looking at somewhere around 1.7 million. And it's a big investment for the town, but I
Right.
don't know how we could function without replacing it. And I think from a fiduciary standpoint, keeping the current system in place is risky for us.
Indeed.
Well,
No,
we lose our
I'm with you on all
liability
of those
coverage.
points,
Right,
Robin.
right. So.
Cam, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you all set?
Yeah, no, that were the only points I wanted to make.
Okay. Kevin, it's been a year now since we met, and I was wondering if you could fill us in um, the where the existing tanks are is over the old factory building that burned down, and it is loose rubble is the soil type where that is. And if memory serves, you and Bobby Tosi were telling me that if we're going to put in a hood, with or without fire suppression, that it would be significantly more expensive because the soil over there is not strong enough to anchor it. Am I all wet here? Or is that something that actually, if I'm right, please enlighten everyone.
Yeah, so that kind of goes back to the point with Jesse. So seeing that we didn't do the geologic work in that area, but we did mitigate some drainage issues we had in the parking lot, and with removing some of that asphalt, we did hit rumble pieces, if you will, from the old foundation.
So it may be the case, but without doing the soil study, which is an additional 50 to $100,000, we won't know for certain. I think, Dave, we also would need to move it out of the AT&T easement, so it couldn't really be in the exact location that it's in. I think it has to get moved a little bit. Again, if my memory can be relied upon.
Right. It's been over a year, so um,
Uh,
Almost two.
yeah, no, you're very correct, Madam Chair, that is in an AT&T easement and setback, which the reading in that specifically says it prohibits a structure. So how we ended up here, I do not know.
And
But
there are many things we cannot explain. So,
but I think regardless of why it is where it is, we know that there would be significant costs and delay to keep it there.
right. And the new location is no further away from houses than the old one is, and it also does address a safety concern. And I know I remember listening to the planning board hearings, and somebody asked the question whether or not there had been any accidents. And I know there have not been any accidents for trucks backing in, but again, it does, just because there weren't any accidents doesn't mean there won't be accidents. And this does make things a lot easier when refueling, and safer when refueling these um, trucks. So, all right. So if there are no further questions on the Weston and Sampson presentation, or any questions to Kevin McCabe, then I think we can move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is just a reminder of what some of the planning boards, the conditions that were included in the planning board's recommendation. So we thought it would be important for anybody watching the meeting, to be able to see the recommendation. So Mike has offered to bring it up while I talk through each of the conditions. And if I get anything wrong, the chair of the planning board, Carol Lisbon, is available to set the record straight. Do you have my back, Carol?
Whoops. Always.
Okay. All right. All right.
Robin, can you see the correct document?
I can see it. It's very difficult for me to read. It's kind of small, but I do see
Yes,
it.
if you could enlarge it, Mike, that'd be great.
Is that
So
better?
it's not just me. Okay.
Perfect. No, it's perfect. Thanks.
All right. So the first item is just what I would call administrative. It's the outline of the planning board's recommendation. The second line item number 2, or condition number 2, is for administrative ease, and it basically provides the planning board chair the ability to approve any very minor modifications to the site plan without having to hold a meeting. Item number three is basically that any future modifications to the site will need to be reviewed not only by the planning board, but they also require the Board of Selectmen approval. The lighting on the site cannot spill over to adjoining property. There will be lighting under the canopy, and I believe as part of the design, we have ensured that the lighting will not spill over to any adjoining properties. The site is subject to Conservation Commission, and as Weston and Sampson mentioned, they already went to the Conservation Commission, but I think Conservation Commission's concerns were addressed in items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, which are other conditions on this recommendation. The site is subject to approval by the Board of Selectmen. That's what we're doing this evening. Um, the condition number 7 was that in addition to spill prevention and response guidelines, the DPW has confirmed that all electronic leak monitoring systems and overfill protections alarms will 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 provide alerts to DPW employees who will be on call 24/7 to respond. And the commission also requests the confirmation that it be included in writing that the DPW prevention control and countermeasures plan for this project, and that a copy of the plan will be submitted to the commission once it is completed and part of the permitting process. The Conservation Commission requested that the site be submitted prior to construction, showing the specific installation location and the specific details to be discussed, like the hydrodynamic separator to be installed downstream of the site's deep sump hooded catch basin in order to prevent hydrocarbons from entering into the drainage system that outlets to the wetlands resource area. And I believe all of these items have been included in the plan, but again, it will go to the Conservation Commission. The DPW also confirmed that the drain blocker catch basin covers will be installed by the DPW during tank fueling activity on the site, as well as they will be installed as an immediate response to measures, and this will be put in writing. It will be an SOP of the DPW, and I think Kevin mentioned this as well earlier in this meeting. The Conservation Commission also requested that erosion control measures such as filament compost stock, silt fencing, orange construction fencing be installed prior to the construction and immediately adjacent to the fuel station in consultation with the conservation agent in order to protect the wetland resources and runoff of sediment during construction. Refueling of the storage tanks must be done under DPW staff supervision. So that means no equipment can be refueled without the DPW supervision. Given that a building permit is not required, appropriate and timely inspections during constructions prior to the final as-built plans being approved by the Board of Selectmen, relevant inspections by licensed professionals must be completed and documented to the planning board. So even though a permit isn't needed, these inspections will happen and they will be documented, and that documentation will go back to the planning board, and the fire department will also have oversight during constructions. In addition to that, the RFP for construction includes the role of a design engineer and project oversight professional, and Kevin McCabe is on site 5 days a week, and he will also be there monitoring the progress of the construction. A fire suppression system was recommended, and as Weston and Sampson mentioned, it has been included so that that condition has already been met. Another condition that has been met was that, excuse me, that the town, the the town, oh, I skipped one. Prior to the action by the board, confirmation that the permitting requirement for either location under Chapter 116 groundwater protection district shall be obtained, and that was obtained during town meeting. And although the construction bylaws, Chapter 93, does exempt municipal project from the construction hours, the town is committed to adhering to the construction hours bylaw. And lastly, the traffic study, as we showed, has been completed. So the planning board did recommend the site. However, there are 15 or 16 conditions that need to be met, some that have already been met, and some that will be met as the project advances. So are there any questions regarding the planning board's recommendation and conditions? And Carol, if you'd like to add something, please feel free to do so.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for going through all that. I would just add that looking back at 40, 50, 60 site plan reviews that the planning board has done, over the last 6 to 8 years, that this was the second most comprehensive site plan review that we did, with the second most conditions that were put into it. And I did have the opportunity over the last couple of days to rewatch the over 4.5 hours of meetings that the planning board had during those 3 meetings in September and then January of 2025. And with a lot of input from the fire department, the chiefs, a lot of discussions with DPW staff, we feel that the conditions are comprehensive and really address the issues that have been raised by everybody during this process. Thank you.
Right, and I think many of the conditions were concerns of residents, and those were also taken into account. Those over 4 hours of meetings were really informative, and we did listen and made sure that issues were addressed.
Rob, do you want us to ask our questions now?
Yes, and then we'll open up to public comment, or unless you'd prefer to hear public comments and then ask your questions.
I might as well get mine
Okay.
out of the way with. So
Okay.
just to confirm on number 7, the spill prevention, we just spoke about this, that the entire system will be on a generator and that there's not going to be a weak link that could fail with a power outage.
Yes, the supply to this it will be all underground, connected to our building, which is operated on a backup generator.
And the signal going to the person responsible on call, that end is also going to be taken care of? I'm looking for a failure link here if the power goes out. So just because the signal is being sent, if the person on the receiving end doesn't have power as well, it's a winter storm, will they get it?
So the way that the signal is passed through is through the internet. So the Vita route or the tank monitoring system that we're specifying is web enabled. So if that is connected to the internet, and the person could have it on their cell phone.
Right.
There's an app um, where they could get notifications through that on their phone.
Okay, again, great. You see where I'm going here. I just want to make sure
Right.
there's
And
nothing that
also,
we haven't thought of that would prohibit the signal from getting through and whoever's on call reacting appropriately.
Mhm.
So
also Tyler mentioned, and if I understood his answer correctly, he said that there's foolproof systems in place. So even though somebody doesn't get notified, the system the system prevents the spillage. So,
Yeah, the
right,
tanks are double walled and provide secondary containment that doesn't require any power. And all the safety siphon valves, the brake valves, and all that stuff is even the overflow prevention valves are all mechanical and are not reliant on electricity.
okay, great. Thank you. The next one goes to 11 on the specifics. um, that the refueling of the storage tanks, if we could make this an absolute no exception policy and make sure that our fueling contractor knows that if no one from DPW was there, do not deliver the fuel. This goes back to when I actually met Justine after the Dover mobile spill, where the operator actually fell asleep in the cab on Christmas Eve. So we just want to make sure that there's no possibility of a repeat type performance, and that this is an ironclad, no exception policy.
One other thing I'll add is that there is a high level alarm that goes off when the tank hits 90% full, so it's fairly loud, and it has to be manually hit to turn it off during fueling events.
Again, I love it. This is the redundancy that we're looking for, but we just want to make sure that it's all done.
Yep.
My next
And
comment then is to thank.
so, Dave,
Oh,
can I
sorry.
just ask Kevin a question? So, Kevin,
Sure.
do they, is it an automatic refueling or do you have to call to have it refueled?
Oh, we have to physically order fuel. So yeah, as stated previously, all those orders are done. My operations superintendent, the tanks, because the technology is so old, that manually have to stick the tanks to see what the volume is, to go back and look at a conversion chart to figure out how much to order. But again, that's all physically done and manually ordered in.
And it will be the same with the new tanks. You're going to manually.
Correct, except for what he mentioned, Vita Router. It would be an online program, so we wouldn't have to physically stick the tanks. You'd be able to log into that program for the capacity to order. So, but
Okay.
the ordering is still manually done by us, and those deliveries come during the day.
Great. So the next thing I would like to do is just thank the planning board and the Conservation Commission for working with the highway department, because a lot of time and effort was put in, and the results I think are on these recommendations before us. And so just as a kind of a blanket, Kevin, um, uh, would you be willing to give your assurances that each and every one of these either have been or will be adhered to during the execution of this project?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, because that's I think the most important thing. It looks like the hard work's been done unless someone's got something no one's thought of. So now it's just a matter of following through and making sure that all of these are implemented fully. So thank you.
Pam, do you have any questions?
No additional ones, Robin. No,
Okay.
I've already asked the ones I was interested in.
All right. So then I'm going to open it up to public comment. Please be patient with us. If you raise your hand, we will one at a time bring you in as a panelist. Is that how we're going to do it, Mike?
Yep. So
Okay.
Suzanne, I think she'll just start at the top of the list as people raise their
Okay.
hands and move
Okay.
down.
So the first person that I saw to raise their hand was on top of my list. I don't know if everybody's list looks the same. Is Nicole Safarian. So, Nicole, if you could just say who you are, give your street address, and then we would appreciate it if you could limit your comments to 2 minutes. Mr. Havland, who's an expert at this, is going to keep time.
Back,
You're
back to
on
my
mute,
old
Nicole.
moderator days.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm also here with Fred Sears. So Fred Sears, 5 Meeting House, and Nicole, 13 Meeting House. We are abutters. As you've been hearing from me a lot over the past couple of years, there's been constant construction behind my home for at least 2 years. I've been unable to have people over in my backyard. There's been contaminated soil that was discovered. So living next to the town yard, I've been here for 20 years, has been hell for the people who are abutters. So we are taxpayers. I am trying for you guys to hear. You might think this is best for the town, but it is not best for the town's people. I've shared my concerns about health risks. There's a toddler that lives within 1,000 feet of this location. Human error happened and mistakes happen within the DPW. There was just one last Friday where something was being redug up because of human error. And again, we had to go through loud construction all day, unscheduled, and we were not notified. I would like to know how many town vehicles will use this location. It will change and increase the traffic pattern that goes by homes on Meeting House Hill. So there now will be the fire trucks, police stuff running by that new exit. Currently, they don't run all the way through and behind our homes. They turn around up front. So that will change the traffic pattern. The tanks are already located in the back of the town yard in the past. It was moved due to fuel leaks and fuel theft. So they were back there in the past. I think that's why there was VOCs found in the soil along the fence line that then is flushed into conservation land right there.
30 seconds, Nicole.
Yeah. Okay. And the proposed location is extremely cramped, especially during a snowstorm. And I'd also like to know if this aligns with the current EPA and DPA state guidelines for gas stations located near residents, and if the great drain mitigation system was not there, what would be the cost reduction, since that needs to be added because of the current wetlands and drainage system back there? How much does that add to the proposal? Thank you.
Would Fred like to say anything?
Yes, I would, please. I'm Fred Sears, 5 Meeting House. I'm pleased with the discussion about the fire suppression system. It's certainly nice if the activation works. The DPW has a system to prevent floods, but the most recent flood was not prevented for some reason. That's all I know.
Thank you. Next is John Jeffries. John, you've been promoted as a panelist.
Robin, can you hear?
We can. We also saw you connecting, so I think you're good.
Wow. I miss you so much. Thank you all. Thank you for
So could you just identify yourself? And I know it's redundant, but and your street address.
and you John Jeffries, 9 Meeting House Hill.
Thank you.
Robin, thank you. Dave and Cam, Michael, Kevin, thank you for this. Just quickly, Nicole and I spent about 2 hours in Kevin's office reviewing the plans. There are several things that you've addressed this evening. I'm going to go as fast as I can, Dave, so hit the timer now, please. At the beginning, Mr. O'Donnell described the current site as cramped and busy. Moving it to the back is going to make it much worse. When you move the site, the existing site to the back of the site, it is going to don't allow for the trucks coming in and out at night when there is refueling and when there is work that's being done, snow plow, snow removal, salt removal, et cetera, et cetera. The location in the back of the building is going to make it much, much more cramped. Additionally, at the very beginning, specifically with Carol, the site plan review was just that, a site plan review. What other off-site locations did you consider? Cam, you were alluding to this a little earlier. You called this chaos, and this, in fact, will be chaos because just as you predicted, Cam, you'll have to enter the back from both sides. The traffic pattern will change. And if you go back, Robin, and you look at the loop pattern and the elevation pattern that Mr. O'Donnell put up and Tyler put up, what you don't get is the elevation and the view of the elevation. it's impossible to adhere, Dave, to the 16 items that Carol has labeled, specifically because you can't stop the lights. The lights from the vehicle will shine directly into Nicole and Pete's house. When you look at the distance from the existing tanks to my house, our rental house, or any of the other properties, it's not the same because the elevation isn't the same.
30 seconds, John.
So Dave, when you pull in and out of the lot, in and out of the yard, you are doing so at varying degrees of grade. So it is impossible to conform to what Carol had laid out because of the grade. And I'll leave you with the last thing is the proximity to the wetlands. You're moving this closer to the wetlands, not further away. And then the final thing is the most area in the lot is up by the Dunkin' Donuts, where you refer to the grade and the gravel being impervious. That's going to change. The utilization of the yard is going to be expanded to include Dedham Street, which Kevin already has. That area is going to be moved more towards Dedham Street. So that area is going to change. I know I'm out of time, but again, thank you all. And
thank you.
Please consider all of these things. This is not an improvement.
Next is Justine Kent-Uritam.
Mute. Can you guys hear me?
We can now.
Okay. Thank you. You know, I am so proud of all three of you selectmen. You have heard many.
Okay, so Justine, we know you really well, but
well, I'm just giving you a compliment before I start giving you criticisms. Okay. I would say the compliments first. The compliments. I like
to identify yourself first.
Oh, sorry. 23 Haven Street, about a quarter of a mile down gradient. I sent you an email. I have 4 requests. No, number 1, don't vote on this tonight. You need to have a really public meeting on this with a lot of more outreach. Number 2, Kevin, you have never talked to me. You've never talked to the hundreds of us that were affected by that 1985 spill. For shame on you, in my opinion. We were devastated what happened to us. And just because there's some rules about you're only going to notify people between 120 feet or whatever the rule is of the site, that doesn't mean that those of us who've lived here weren't so badly affected by what happened then. Now, of course, the current select board were not involved in any of this, Kevin, and neither were you, but you should know about the history of this site. Number 3, what I expected tonight was a discussion, not a vote, a discussion of at least 3 sites. The current site near Dunkin' Donuts, this new site, and near the cell tower, and thirdly, maybe another site that was mentioned at a planning board meeting at Carroll Park. None of this has occurred. I want to see the pros and cons of all of those. Number 4, it seems to me a lot of this is being done. I heard you say that you don't want to go with the current site because you'd have to do soil tests. So what? The current site, how many feet is the current site near Dunkin' Donuts, which you have not told me, from your proposed site? The whole point of the 1985 spill was to get this goddamn, excuse my language, fuel tank away from us who are on private wells. You're going backwards.
Justine, 30 seconds.
All right, you hear me. On the other hand, I like the bells. I like the above ground, and I don't believe for a second. And I like the daytime delivery, all that. But you've lost the bigger point. You haven't done enough outreach to the people that were affected, and you have not done a study, a serious study of alternative sites.
Thank you. And the last person is Evren Gundas, and I hope I've pronounced your name correctly.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we
Yes.
hear you perfectly.
Thank you. My name is Evren Gundes. I live at 11 Meeting House Hill Road. My main concern is the traffic. The current situation is that the activity at the town garage is already loud. It's already active. We do have a toddler in the house, and making this loop for bigger, heavier trucks in a continuous pattern going in both directions, day and night, is going to create, we're going to have a highway right in our backyard. In essence, it's going to be damaging to all the abutters of Meeting House Hill Road, especially. So I know that I'm not going to repeat other concerns that other citizens brought up, but I just want to make sure that the traffic is seriously considered for what that's going to do for the people that are just, I know you said the site is equidistant from the nearest dwelling of the fuel station, but the trucks that are going to be using this are going to be exponentially closer to all the houses, and really right just feet from our backyards and doors and bedrooms. In addition to the light pollution that the trucks will inevitably bring right into the windows and doors of all of our homes along Meeting House Hill Road. Please consider bringing this to a public forum and other sites, because this one does not seem to be an improvement for the actual dwellers of the homes around the DPW site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak who's on the in attendance tonight?
I don't see any more raised hands. All right, well then that will conclude the public comment section of the meeting. I am just a little bit confused, and I don't know if anybody can help clarify this evening, but is the 1985 spill, was that the mobile station in the center of town, or was there something that occurred at the town garage? I thought it was the mobile station in the center of town.
I might get this wrong, but it's my understanding is the fuel spill from Mobile then entered the stormwater
Right,
and
right,
went down towards the garage.
right. But it
And
wasn't a result of,
I,
oh,
I I don't think there was anything that happened at the garage, if that's what the
okay.
question
All
is.
right. I just wanted to make sure that my facts were straight. Okay. Um, so we've had, there's been a lot of information presented this evening. There was also, this is also after the planning board spent 4.5 hours or more vetting this information in 3 separate site plan reviews. So I believe, all of the issues that were mentioned tonight were addressed. There will also be additional public outreach, and ultimately the decision makers are town meeting. It's not us. Town meeting will decide whether or not these fuel tanks should be replaced. So the question I have for you is, do you have enough information this evening to vote on acceptance of the planning board's recommendations with the conditions, or are there some open items that you would like to get answers on prior to a vote?
I don't have any additional questions on that, Robin. I think deferring a vote is not going to lead to any constructive outcomes. I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that this is just to approve his site as the one to go forward.
Right.
It doesn't mean approval of the project at all. That will come, as Robin said, in town meeting, but also there'll be other reviews, public reviews going on, and I think this is just the beginning of a process, not an end.
Well, the planning board takes exception to that when we say the beginning of a process because
Yeah,
they feel as though they began the process in in
they,
in 2024, and I have to
right. No,
I
but I
have to
mean, there's
concede
still
that,
quite a lot of
right?
process to go through
I
before this
completely know what you
project will
mean.
be approved.
And Cam, it just felt good to give you that response because that's the response I got when I said this was just the beginning of the process.
I, am surprised that Carol didn't scream at me.
Yeah, I don't have anything that I need answered. We all just listened to those who wish to speak. Um, I know that a lot of the work that is supposedly not done has been done, and we've got to address this. And well, I don't know, Kevin, would you say the bioorganisms in diesel fuel? Maybe we just found the origins of
Diesel
life.
bugs.
Diesel bugs, right? This is a new one on me. But whatever it is, the current tanks are out of warranty. We've got to do something. And the current location does not appear to be the best. And I mean, we've looked at soil types all across the town and dismissed those as being the same soil types. And the last comment I'll make is I'm not sure how much difference a couple 100 feet are going to make if there's a major oil leak. I mean, if we found that out with a Dover oil spill, I mean, that traveled a lot longer than what we're talking about from the current to proposed location. So um,
Right.
it's the best answer we have, and I'm ready to move ahead with a vote tonight.
Okay, so I also agree. I don't think there's any more information that I need to vote on the site. I would like to say, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, traffic isn't going to increase. We're not getting any additional trucks. So the traffic that exists today during a storm is going to be the same amount of traffic that we're going to have when and if this new fuel island is built. So there's not going to be a significant increase. So with that, I am going to make a motion. I am going to move to approve the site plan for the Department of Public Works fuel system replacement project with the recommendations listed in the planning board preliminary site plan review recommendations dated February 3rd, 2025.
Second,
All in favor? I, Raman Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland.
I Cam Hudson.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And Kevin, as we discussed, we need to make sure that we get on the website um, at least 3 dates for public information sessions on the project as a whole. And then, both Warren and Capitol will also have their own hearings. And it would be good to have a combined hearing so everybody gets the information at once. But thank you, everyone. Weston and Sampson, thank you very much for your presentation. Very helpful. I know this has been a very long, drawn out process, but we do appreciate you as partners, and hopefully we will start this project.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
night, everyone. All right. All right, so we're only an hour and 15 minutes off schedule, but that's okay. The the next item on the agenda is item 1.2, and that's a discussion and vote on the agreement between Dover and Woodard and Curran for professional engineering services related to the Denham Street culvert replacement bidding phase. And I believe, Kevin, you're gonna be talking about this.
Yes, gonna run it back here. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the contract before you tonight is for the work to finalize the bid documents and update those cost estimates for the Dedham Street culvert construction. Uh, the second task would be to prepare and do the bidding and the award of that and all the documentation that entails to continue that. And then the other task would be for construction administration services. So answering those RFIs, and then that will translate to actual on-site supervision from our design engineer. So this is part. So as for the public's benefit, we were awarded a $500,000 one-stop grant for that construction for the Denham Street culvert. Conveniently, ironically, however you want to look at it, part of our grant request was essentially this work that would be our in-kind services, or not in-kind services, but our grant match, which we were going to utilize Chapter 90 funding for. So conveniently, and as I said, conveniently and ironically, we received an earmark. So we thank our state legislators for that, for securing those fundings. So again, these were steps we always needed to take. It's just a different mechanism for funding them.
Yeah, and a special thank you to Senator Roush and Representative Tarski, for their support to the town of Dover. So, Dave, you always have questions on the contract. Are you going to?
I looked at this one and I think everyone's caught up to my questions because I'm good.
And I don't have any questions on the contract, that's for
I didn't
sure.
have any questions, but I was sure Dave would find some comma that was missing, some word that wasn't right. Okay.
And Rob, I just want to take this opportunity, for any public watching, we as we get into budget season, we know our capital budget is large. And we're going to have a lot of difficulty managing it. And at the end of the day now, with this additional funding, this entire project is not coming out of town of Dover property taxes, and so that's a big deal. So I appreciate our representatives, appreciate Kevin for putting in the request for this earmark. But it's a nice outcome for the town for sure.
Right. And Mike, you're absolutely right. Again, it's credit to all of you at the townhouse for, applying for grants and making sure that we do get them and making sure that they match up with the various projects that we're doing. Because if it weren't for grants, it would be coming out of the taxpayers' wallets, because these aren't nice to have projects. These are projects that we have to do. So
Why we need Dedham Street? So
maybe. All right. So Kevin, I really appreciate all the work that you do to obtain these grants, to
yes.
offset the investments that's needed by us. So we really
Yeah,
do.
I appreciate that, and thank you, Madam Chair. To Mike's plug, so I also appreciate that. This was actually it's augmented each year, but this is the third submission for this project that I've put in. So each year we try to take the burden off the taxpayers, as you allude to, and some years were successful, some were not. So the first initial ask was to fund basically design and construction for Willow and Dedham, and then thanks to the taxpayers of Dover, funded Willow Street. Town meeting constructed that, which augmented that request. So third time's a charm, I guess. So.
Well, however you did it, please know we're grateful for your efforts.
Right. And not just the three of us, but all the taxpayers.
Yeah.
They should be.
So I'm going to move to approve the professional services agreement between Dover and Woodard and Curran for professional engineering services related to the bidding and award phase and construction administration of the Dedham Street culvert replacement project.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
Aye, Cam Hudson.
All right.
To the board.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. So my little bookmark things aren't working today. Probably because I had way too much open. All right.
It's the victualers licenses.
Right. All right. So number 1.3,
1.3.
and I'm going to call it the Vic licenses for Powassan Farm. Renewal of the common Vic license because I can't really properly pronounce the other word. So I think,
Chillers.
right, I think we did this last meeting, right? For the
For
for the
for
Legion.
the Legion and Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, so this is
Dunkin'
this is
Donuts.
our third one.
Right, so this is our third one. So again, it's per Massachusetts general law, establishments engaging in the business of preparing and providing food need a VIC license, and we grant them annually. So given that this is a standard administrative thing, I am going to move to approve the issuance of the common vic license for Powassan Farm effective January 1st, 2026 through December 30th, 2026. Why isn't it December 31st?
I think it should be.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
through December 31st,
yeah,
2026.
Otherwise, I can't have a New Year event.
that's right.
Exactly, exactly.
So I will second that.
All in favor, aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
I can, Hudson.
So the proof is I'm not asleep yet.
Yeah, you're on the ball.
Okay. Although I wish I brought more water. So then the next item,
Here's some.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want some Polar?
you're a funny guy. All right. So the next item is a couple of board, committee, and commission appointments. So today we have a few appointments. So the first one is Open Space Committee, and the chair, Amy Moot, is requesting that the board appoint Nina Sperry McGrath to the Open Space Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2026. And the next one is Selectman Hudson has suggested it would be beneficial if he served as the selectman's liaison to the board of library trustees. And I know you made this suggestion last time, and I thought this was a great suggestion. So library director Bethany Clem and the trustees chair Rob Andrews agree and welcome his participation on the board. And I can't, it seems like an oversight that we never had a liaison
Yeah, that's what I
library
figured. Yeah.
before, right?
And
And
they
it
deserve
really,
one, and Cam will do a great job. So
I
well, I'm not so
completely
sure about that.
no, no, I,
I,
I completely agree. I think it's great. So and so
and
Cam,
by the way, I've met Nina McGrath at the last Concom meeting, and I'm sure she will be a brilliant appointment.
and I heard that meeting was in person. Did I
Yes,
hear correctly? Yeah,
you did.
that's great. Right. And again, the town exists on commitment of volunteers in certain committees, and it's just part of who we are. And I know people are really busy, but we really do appreciate those that take the time to volunteer. And I think just like us, they will find it really rewarding, and you meet a whole different demographic when you volunteer. So it's an added benefit. So thank you, Nina. Thank you, Cam. And I'm going to move to appoint Nina Sperry McGrath to Space Committee for the term ending June 30th, 2026. And I'm also going to move to appoint Cam Hudson as the Board of Selectmen's liaison to the Board of Library Trustees.
second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
I'm not sure whether I should be
Well, you can
recusing
vote on the
myself for
one.
that vote,
Oh,
but
you
I'll
should. You
vote
should.
for the other one.
Okay.
Before we leave this line item, I was wondering if I could quickly talk about a similar appointment. I hope that everyone will cross their fingers with me. I've asked someone to join the 3 to 5 committee.
Have they accepted?
They haven't accepted yet. That's why we're crossing our fingers. Um, and no one else is allowed to resign. The charge, I was talking with Mike a little bit. The charge requires that the committee have 7 members, and we have been struggling to get to 5. So I'm wondering if next meeting we could put on the agenda to reduce the 3 to 5 committee from a 7-person committee to a 5-person committee so we can actually complete the study. I mean, everyone is so frustrated. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We just want to get going, and assuming we get our last member, that would do it. So,
I think that makes a lot of sense. And so long as it's an odd number,
Right.
I mean,
yes,
I think that's the most important thing.
yes.
And I
So
mean, I know, Dave, we laugh, but it's I can't I just can only imagine how frustrating it is.
Mhm.
we want to get there. We want to get this done. We
Right.
owe it to town meeting. That's my request for next meeting. If we could have a similar discussion, and with any luck, we will have someone to appoint.
Okay, so we will entertain that so long as you have somebody to appoint.
What part of fingers crossed? So, uh, in any event, thank you.
All right. All right. So the next item is an update on town meeting and budget calendar. So I'm assuming Chris is sick.
He is. Poor Chris has been really battling. I think he's on day 18, I think he said. So he's not here tonight. So
Yeah, I
appreciate
mean,
you
he
being
sounded
helping us.
horrible
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, he's having a really tough go. He's on all sorts of everything. So we're hoping he'll rest up and be back. But I believe Dave, might have been Dave, but the board had asked that once budget season kind of kicks in now in December, that this be a reoccurring item on the agenda just to check in. Um, to date, we're through December 8th here with all budgets due to the town administrator. They are still coming in. We did find, as always, Excel formula error, and we did correct that. So we're just waiting for a few more submissions, but those will be in hopefully by the end of this week, so that we can start to pull our budget together and be prepared to present that to the first time to the warrant committee in January. And capital budget is working to schedule a meeting. I think it's either later this week or early next. So they'll start their process, pull that together with the Collins Center. So those are really the only updates I have, but I just wanted to, I think the intention is kind of keep this on everybody's radar and make sure we're moving forward.
Right. And I did talk to Chris before I went to Europe, and he was really pleased because we're making really good progress on the fiscal year close.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're in a great position, particularly as we all know, relative to past years. We're in a really good spot, which is great.
I mean, Chris is really, really pleased.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. And we'll just keep, especially with our new town accountant starting early next year, we're just going to keep getting better.
That's the magic words I was waiting for, Mike. I was like, did she accept?
Yes. Yes.
That's great.
Right. And Mike, one of the things that came up at the planning board meeting was Melissa. Melissa's new, and now they have a new assistant, planning board assistant. Um, and neither of them have really been trained, and this whole accounting thing is new. So I think she was hoping the town accountant was starting next week. But maybe if somebody could give them a little bit of training, that
Absolutely. Yeah. We usually have done an annual training. Obviously that hasn't happened, but yes, we can certainly help. And
because she
If I
said
could
this was
broaden that out to everyone who's using the Vadar system or should be.
Yes.
If you saw Bethany Clem's face light up when Joanne simply said, "Oh, this is how you run the report." I mean, she's like, all the information, here it is. So I think a lot of the communication issues around Vadar could be solved with I'm going to use the word practical training, not one of these top to bottom. It's like, how do I run these reports?
Yes. Yep. I think that's a great idea. What reports, that day to day will be helpful to departments and boards and committees.
Right.
Sorry, I've got too many notepads going for tonight's meeting. So backing up to the board and committees for next week. Um, Mike, this is a trivia question. I'm not going to ask you to answer tonight, but Maggie Sharon has resigned from the Minuteman rep.
Right.
And the trivia question is, does the moderator appoint the interim, not the full term, but when there's a vacancy, is it moderator or Board of Selectmen? And that's trivia. We don't need the answer tonight, but if it is the Board of Selectmen, we got to throw that on for that same heading next week, next meeting.
And we do
Okay.
have, I believe Mark Healy has,
It's offered to stand, yeah.
yeah, is willing to,
Yes, I had a quick conversation with Jim. Oh goodness, a few days ago,
and he
and
doesn't know the answer.
we both were like, I don't know for interim. So there's your trivia assignment, Mike. Ready? You can go on Jeopardy after that one.
I bet Felicia knows the answer.
All right, good. Check. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just
No, that's good. So
notes.
now we'll turn it over to Mike. So he's going to give us an update on goals.
Yeah, so just a couple times. I know it's a long night. I appreciate everybody hanging in. So just to recap, under your engagement with boards and committees, we did hold, and I think a couple of you attended the board and committee open meeting law and public records training. It was very well attended. At the peak, we had 30 board and committee members in attendance, which I thought was really great. And I'm happy we did it on Zoom so that more people could attend. And, I just think it's overall, people are generally aware with the open meeting law, public records law, but it's a really good refresher, particularly in a community like Dover. There, at least in my experience, there is not a lot of intentionally trying to circumvent the open meeting law, but we're a small community, so people tend to bump into each other more at the transfer station or getting our coffee. So it's a good reminder of kind of the rules of engagement and when you can have discussions and when you can't. So again, well received. We did record it and we sent that out with a copy of the slides for anyone that could not attend. So I thought that was a good way to kick that off. We talked a little bit about, I think, in our last meeting, but under special project, our permit software is live and the rollout continues to go well. Always some bumps in the road, but nothing that hasn't been worked through. And really appreciate the departments, for their work. That long term, this is going to make life easier, but short term, it makes it a little more chaotic. And Jason Belmonte, our help director, who served as project manager, continuing to finish this out. So we do appreciate that. Under sustainability, the sustainability committee submitted a grant, I believe it was this week, if not late last, for a climate action plan with MAPC. So that may necessitate some matching funds that could become a town meeting warrant article for kind of like a one-time project. So we'll follow that and see where that goes, but just wanted to keep you updated. They did get that in time, and we'll wait the results. And then I don't want to steal Cam's thunder, but just to under quality of life, the newly named pedestrian safety committee will be meeting again next week. So
That was the only thunder I had, Mike. I'm so
sorry,
disappointed.
Cam. Sorry.
Okay, it's just rain.
I also have the famous MBTA advisory board meeting. I'm wondering if it's going to be productive for me or not, but we'll see how it goes.
All right. So now it is Board of Selectmen's updates. And for me, the only meeting I attended was a planning board meeting. I will tell you the good news is they have 4 candidates for 2 positions. So they are going, and
That's great.
very, very, very well qualified candidates. People with real estate backgrounds. So I think it's going to be a really hard decision for the planning board, but that is great news. And other than that, again, their meetings were jam-packed. They are starting their review of the site plan review process to see if any changes are warranted. And that that's the only update that I have.
All right. Let's see. Well, the building committee, if I give you a full update, I'm going to ask that we have an executive for next meeting.
Okay.
Um, had a good conversation with Dick Malcolm. There is some good news. Phil Palumbo, who heads up Collier's division, he's back involved in helping Nina and FM and the committee negotiate what's going on. In terms of the two complaints that are there is parking and parking lot lights. And if you've been over to the parking lot, the spaces are very small.
Like Whole
So
Foods in Wellesley.
they're gonna propose losing 5 spaces so that the spaces become actually usable for modern cars. And uh, losing spaces is going to be precious. But to put on somebody's radar, what about the old fire station that Park and Rec has a lot of storage in across the street? There's room behind that building. And if we need overflow parking, is that a site that we could add overflow parking to? Because during Dover days and other high use periods, we could use some more parking. And if there's space back there, let's take advantage of it. Then the other complaint is that the lights of the parking lot are going into two neighbors' property, and that the equipment to control them just came. So Mark is working to get that one. They believe that they're going to be able to, if not fully mitigate, significantly mitigate just by being able to turn them off at night.
So they'll be on a timer, I guess, right?
Is something like
Yeah.
that. So, and then I believe they can control direction a little bit, but I'm getting over my skis here. So, but those were the two issues that residents had around it. And again, the rest I'm going to leave. 3 to 5 we've already spoken about. So thank you for that. Next meeting. Sustainability meets next week, and Mike already stole my thunder about the possible warrant. And then the financial working group. We had a great meeting with the library and the Hubby Fund and introduced the Board of Trustees in the library to Rockland Trust through Joanne. And needless to say, that's going to be an ongoing process, but we're focusing on the trust funds first. Then I think the accounts and reconciliation it will be second, and then policies and procedures will be third. If either of you have any amendments to that, just please let me know. But that's kind of the direction we're working in right now with Chris and Joanne and the rest of the team.
Right,
And
and it
we
will be interesting to see if Molly has anything that she thinks needs to be added or if she wants to convince you to prioritize some other things.
That's it. And we still have to be extremely cognizant of the fact that the team is digging out.
Still,
And so we've been patient so far, and we need to continue to allow them to get their work done, like closing the books and whatnot, before we go back and send them on projects to go find answers. So, but it's all good. And I thank Joanne a lot because, again, just watching Bethany's face, one with just basic information on Vadar, she was so excited. And so I think a lot of
that's a
what
quick win. That's low-hanging fruit.
exactly. So, sometimes it's just the information that people need. And, yeah, so enough there. So thank you.
All right.
And well, for me, I've recently attended both the Open Space Committee and the Concom Committee. It's
In
more,
person.
in person, more or less business as usual. And I'm really learning quite a lot about how those committees work. There was some question that I'm following up with Mike on about the monitoring of the wells and where that stands. And I think we've identified potential ways of getting those the well monitoring automated. So that's going to be a good thing. On the
Yeah,
library.
excuse me for interrupting. Anna's sister, and I'm blanking on her name, but she was doing. Are you in touch with her?
No, I'm not. But so that's based on manual data collection, and it's good. I mean, it's much better than no data, right? But what we're trying to do is to digitalize that through getting automated reporting from the wells. And apparently there are devices in the wells, but we just haven't been maintaining them. And there's a concern that the batteries might be down, and we're just trying to work out how that can be resolved so that we get it automatically on basically on a daily basis. We'll have the data. But
That would be
yes,
fantastic.
yeah. So there is movement in that space, but we still have to work out the modalities for that. And on the library front, we're also making some progress on the capital works over there. And I think within another few days, we'll be able to work out what proposals are coming in to do most of the capital work there. Other than that, I think that's about it. I'm cognizant of trying to keep it as short as possible.
Oh, but you still need to keep things informed. Okay, and now it's you, Mike. You get to give us an update on
Yep.
your activities.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I just wanted to push a little bit more what Kim had to say about the wells, just 'cause I think it's important. So, again, I often sound like a broken record with our staffing, but we have had a lot of turnover and a lot of information I think has been lost. And so, to Kim's point, our current staff really wasn't quite aware that these wells were already equipped with these devices. Nobody was reading them. They've been there since maybe 2017 or so, and we were manually tape measuring the depth of the wells. So again, there are devices, although we don't think they're working. We want to get them working. We hope we may have a potential funding source. And to Ken's point, we still have to manually go to each site to collect and download the data from the devices, but it will give us that, if we went once a month, it would give us a whole month of daily readings. So, and Dave, to your point, that information would still be funneled to that program that's being developed, and would still benefit the public as a viewable database, but it would just be more frequent data points and hopefully better data because of these monitoring devices. So I appreciate Cam, pushing this and us tracking it down.
Here, here.
I think it was last week, maybe the week before, the two chiefs, our DPW director, myself, met with a new Eversource community relations specialist. So Eversource assigns us a representative. We've had one for a number of years who recently left. So we met our new one, and they're really useful, particularly during storms. Even sometimes they actually set up shop at the public safety building and keep our teams updated. They help arrange, when trees are down, when lines are down, trying to get their crews out so that DPW can then move things off the road once it's safe to do so. So just wanted to mention that so the community knows we do have those sort of relationships and work well with Eversource, and I'm sure we will with our new representative. Earlier today, myself, as well as some other staff and chairs of some of the land use departments, did a site walk for a proposed 40B at 43 Strawberry Hill Street. This is very preliminary. So if anybody's watching, this is at a stage where Mass Housing is reviewing it simply to see if the site looks eligible. We'll consider and look to submit town comments, but Mass Housing was pretty clear. They'll take comments. Their decision is not based on wetlands, water availability, it might not just be in the right site, giving the budding properties. It's really just, is it financially feasible? And do they think it makes sense given the fact that Dover does not have 10% affordable housing? So, should they get that approval from Mass Housing, it would then potentially move forward to a formal application to our Board of Appeals, and that's where a public process would start. And again, this is 20 townhouse condos is what's being proposed for this lot. So again, very preliminary, but just want to keep you updated, and we'll post the information we have on our website so that if people are interested, they can go there and view it. The last thing I wanted to show you, and I'm just going to share my screen so you can see it, is we're preparing a mailer for, see if this works, for a tax bill in early January related to our stormwater bylaw and tree protection. So this has been reviewed by all the right people. I think Val Lynn really led this effort. So we have two things. This is, we're waiting to hear back from our printer if it's a one-sided flyer. I think what you see now, I hope anyway, is the one-sided version, with a QR code to help educate the public on, when you need a stormwater permit. That's the feedback we heard, is we passed this bylaw, but not everybody understands it. And again, a tax bill goes to every home. And then, did your screen change there?
Yes, but is it possible to enlarge?
Yes, yeah. I didn't know if I had to reshare. So this is a 2-page flyer, if it's possible. So this is page 1, and then it goes down here to a page 2. So we're able to fit a little bit more information, make it a little more visually appealing. So again, it's just a function of what our printer will allow, and we'll plan on getting that to the printer. I think formally we do need the selectmen to okay us including this, so we'll have to do that on your next agenda. But we're preparing this now to get to the printer in anticipation of your vote. So I think this is a really great effort.
It looks really professional.
It does, and thanks to Suzanne for really making it look that way. It's just very attractive. It makes you want to read it, which is our goal.
Right.
You pause for a few minutes before it goes into the recycle bin, at least, if nothing else. So,
right. I mean, it just did you know, and then you start reading on.
Right, right.
It's hard to ignore.
Absolutely. So as long as the board, again, I'm not asking for a vote tonight, but conceptually you're on board with us including this in a mailer, we'll proceed with that. And as I said, we'll have you formally vote at your next meeting.
So what might be a good idea is, if this is probably going out in the February with the February tax bills.
I'm honestly not sure of the date, or what specific bill is going in, but.
Right. So then what I would suggest is maybe we could do, because these look so good, but for the following tax bill, which is in the spring, just reminding people about water conservation.
Yeah, yes, so we could look to do a similar mailer. Yep.
So my comments, Robin, is this is a great idea, and it allows us 4 opportunities a year to emphasize something to everyone in town.
Right.
And what I would also suggest is, could a copy of this be sent to the major landscapers and realtors in town, so that a lot of the transgressions that land use runs into are just new homeowners and they don't know any better. So if this is in the packet that they're given, information is power. So if we disseminate the information, then everyone won't have an excuse, I didn't know.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And I think, I don't have it with me, I think Suzanne also mocked up a full-page flyer that would be for those purposes, we can distribute to appropriate people as well with all this information.
Oh, I think this is a great idea.
Yep.
Great. Check that off. And I think that's all I had for you tonight.
All right. So then the last thing on our agenda this evening, unless I don't think I missed anything, no, I'm doing well, is the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda is to approve a 2025 special one-day liquor license for December 16th and December 20th. So I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
Aye, Cam Hudson.
Excellent. And then with that, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Accepted.
All in favor, aye. Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
Aye, Cam Hudson.
I will tell you, I'm extremely proud of myself for being coherent throughout this. It was a tough meeting not to feel great at.
Yeah,
Agreed.
right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night.
Yeah,
Yep, feel
good
better,
night,
Robin.
everyone.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye.
Goodbye.
Bye now.